When God created mankind, he made 10 commandments. And those 10 commandments goes with this. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt release a new Souls-like game once a month. And for this month, we've got Lies of P. And while it's more like Bloodborne than anything, and we'll get into that in just a little bit, I'm really excited for this game. I've been covering it for a while, kind of on and off. I was there in the way back, alright? Back when we didn't know shit about this game. But now we do, and I kind of want to do a final preview, to get you hyped up for launch. Now, for your absolutely need-to-knows about the game, of course it's coming from NeoWiz, and you can play the game pretty much anywhere you want. You can play it on the old Xbox, the new Xboxes, the old PlayStation, the new PlayStation, and of course on PC, and that's going to be on September 19th of 2023, but you don't have to wait that long if you don't want to. And also, you can play it day one on Xbox Game Pass, if that's how you play. And the game's going to be $59.99 US for the base edition, or if you get the deluxe edition for $69.99, then you get a few different things, of course, costumes and different things like that. But what really matters for the deluxe edition, if that's what you choose to do, is you get 72-hour early access to the game. That's 3 days early for Lies of P. For some people, you may finish the game in that time. But that's very unlikely, because recently the director of the game in an interview revealed that the game would take roughly about 30 hours to complete, but it could go up to 60 hours for completionists. And with those need-to-knows out of the way, I feel like there's two other major things about the game that we really need to discuss. And that's about it, and I'll let you go after that. And first up is, of course, the story of the game. Now, as the trailers and even the demo, if you've played it, really hammer into your head, we're going to the city of Krat. And we play as Pinocchio. And we are a puppet created by Geppetto, who's caught in a web of lies with unimaginable monsters and untrustworthy figures standing between us and the events that have befallen the world of Krat. We'll be awakened by a mysterious voice that guides us through the plagued city, a once lively place that has been poisoned by madness and bloodlust. You must adapt yourself and the weapons to face untold horrors, untangle the unfathomable secrets of the city's elites, and choose whether to confront the predicaments with the truth or weave lies to overcome them on the journey to find yourself. Now, of course, there's a lot to go on off of this. First off, the voice in this, we're going to be accompanied at all times, or at least, to our knowledge, all times, by Jiminy Cricket, or, well, some bastardized version of him for this Belle Epoque-inspired era game. Bouncing all around with the city even more, in the demo we got to see places like the circus, and a lot of the halls, which a lot of the environments felt really big, for humans I mean, but for a lot of these different type of puppets and different machineries, it really made sense for their design to fit there. And if you think about a world where humans are creating these puppets to go around, it makes sense. Visually, I think a lot of these locations are very inspired. You see a lot of, I don't want to say steampunkish vibes, but you're definitely getting a slightly more modernized vision of what Bloodborne could be. And a lot of the direct imagery in the earlier marketing of the game really leaned into this in a great way. Another thing that was mentioned in this is the untold horrors, which if you watch any of the trailers, this game has a horror element to it, which a lot of, stamina-based combat games like this have. It's really interesting to me that it's leaning into it in such a way that there almost could be a cosmic horror element to this as well, with some of the weird-looking, madness-driven creatures that seem to be from a later part of the game as opposed to just the driven, insane puppets. But the final bit that I really wanted to talk about was actually the unfathomable secrets of the city's elites and the predicaments of whether to tell the truth or to lie. Now, we know there is a direct lying mechanic in the game, in which we'll have the ability with NPCs to either tell the truth or not in side quests. An example given to their YouTube channel as well as in the demo of the game is that there is a lady in a window, very Bloodborne, who tasks you with finding her daughter. And in doing so, you come across where she tells you to go, and you find a doll. You return the doll to her because that's all you have, and she says, "Oh yes, my baby, isn't she beautiful?" And you can basically go along with it saying, "Yes, what a beautiful child," or "No, that's a doll." And depending on what you choose, you get different quest rewards, and then also it impacts your humanity meter in different ways. I think this is really cool, and I'd love to see this play out on a bigger scale. Obviously, the humanity meter at some degree is going to play into the endings that you get for the game, almost assuredly. As for what's actually going on in the city, we don't know 100% for sure. We do know that there was a puppet uprising probably caused by some outside factors rather than just faulty mechanics. But overall, it really does seem like this could be a story worth listening to rather than just a game worth playing. Now, hopping right along to the gameplay, I actually wanted to start with our classes. There are 3 at the beginning of the game that you can choose to get kind of an edge in one way or the other, but we have the Path of the Cricket, which is kind of your balanced all around. Then you have the Path of the Bastard, which is your dexterity build, and then of course the Path of the Sweeper, which is your strength, your much heavier swords and things like that. Now the reason that's important, of course, comes into the combat very directly, and specifically about the weapons, not about the other aspects, which we'll get into in just a moment. But all weapons are split into 2 parts. We have the blade, and then of course the handle. Now the blade determines both its attack and its guard stats, so your defense and your offense, as well as its primary Fable art, which is kind of its special move. Anyone playing any Elden Ring specifically will be very familiar with this. And this is also what's going to determine the shape of the weapon as well, like what the blade actually looks like. Now your handles are where you want to be really careful, because this is where the stat scaling actually comes into play. You're going to want to match it with your playstyle, and it also determines how well the secondary Fable art is handled. And it also determines the moveset, what kind of weapon you're carrying, and like how you move around is entirely based off of the handle, not actually the blade itself, which is interesting. Now this is an RPG, so if you really are curious about numbers, there will be 30 basic weapon types with over 100 possible combinations between the blade and the hilt. But now with that being said, of course there's going to be some gameplay showing in the background of some of the combat. I want to go ahead and focus on the Fable arts of our weapons for just a moment here. The way your meters work in combat is when you're dodging and you're attacking, that's going to be your stamina meter. And of course you have your health meter as well, which, famously, just don't get it to 0. But then you also have these blue chunks on the screen here, which basically are how many uses you have for your Fable arts. These of course being the trick abilities and sometimes really, really powerful abilities from some of these weapons. This can be a great bonus. And the way you regain parts of this, rather than drinking or anything like that, which I'm sure you can use items, you are doing it through attacking, which much like Bloodborne where you get your health back, in this you're building up your special abilities, which I think is a great way to incentivize attacking that isn't exactly the same way as probably the game's biggest inspiration. Now of course all throughout the trailers and the demo we've seen plenty of different types of enemies. Of course there are a plethora of different boss fights, all of which being very unique and visually styled in such a way that I think this game is really going to pull off the visual aesthetic, especially in the heat of the moment of these boss fights. But whether you're traversing the world or facing low-level dogs or even some giant grotesque creature, one thing you are going to want to make use of is your Legion arm, which is basically your left hand within the game. There are multiple different arms that you can, swap in and out of for this, which each of them gives you a different ability. First up, we have the Deus Ex Machina, which throws some proximity mines on the ground, and each of these can be upgraded. For instance, for this one, you can put them down and they have a bigger area of effect and assumedly more damage. And then of course you have Aegis, which is a shield that can really pack a punch right back. After that we have the Falcon Eyes, which is basically like a little sticky grenade gun that you can aim and shoot at. Then we've got Puppet String, which is I think the most famous one I would say, which is just a grapple hook. You can pull enemies towards yourself or you can do it the other way around too. And then we have Fulminous, which is basically just Emperor Palpatine on steroids. We've got Flamberg, which is a flamethrower. And then we've got Pandemonium, which seems like an area of effect damage that's on the ground. You upgrade it and you're covering more ground, and of course that does more damage. Now looking at this, I really like this a lot. Personally, I feel like if we're going up against robots and, the puppet uprising, we're definitely going to want to lean into that shock factor, but maybe that's just me. Otherwise, I think the grapple hook seems really, really, really cool. But between the Legion arm and all of the different weapons and items that you can pick up throughout the game, there is a lot of complexity to this game. One issue where they have talked in Q&As that they may be looking to improve before release from the demo feedback is actually the dodging of the game. Apparently a lot of people were having issues with this. I, to some extent, was as well. And they basically looked into the idea of tweaking the iframes and, the timings of different animations and things like that in such a way that it makes it to where the game is both enjoyable to play but still fits in with the very intricately balanced world that they have created. To me, it's nice to hear that they actually took feedback from a demo. I think that would be really nice to see some implementation of that. But if you really don't want to dodge, you can just get good. And what I mean by that, as any Souls-like game, you can upgrade yourself in multiple ways. Now, of course, you are a puppet, so you can impact with your souls, as it were. You can, of course, go throughout the level, you kill enemies, you get upgrade points, right? You go back to your lamp, and there you can upgrade your attributes, impacting strength, stamina, attack, different things like that. But then also we have the P-Organ skill tree as well. And this is where you're going to use quartz, which is one of the items that you can find as rewards throughout the world, to upgrade attributes like attack damage, stagger windows, and even special ability effects. These things are not weapon specific or gameplay specific. These are things that you can put on your character, and that's going to seemingly permanently impact the way you're playing the game. But with that being said, without having fully played the game, I can't really tell you anything else. If you're excited about this game, please let me know. If you are not excited for Lies of P, why not? Because it's looking like a pretty damn inspired looking game, and this is definitely a story that I think I want to experience. The idea of a puppet uprising, potentially where they've been led on by some greater cosmic force, really does intrigue me, and I think that's just so fucking cool. The horror aspects really have me involved as well, and this is a game that I'm going to be playing as close to day one as possible, barring Starfield. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and my name is Falling Hurts. Consider subscribing. I do a lot of these final preview style videos. Of course, I'm doing reviews as well, so consider sharing, consider subscribing, consider coming over into my house and just hanging out with me. Don't actually do that. But, yeah, goodbye.